There we go. Hey, Rob, how you doing, buddy?
All right, get back to the car.
Back to the car. All right.
So we're going to start talking about some of the stuff we're doing at the shop. This is the Outlaw car we're working on right now. Doing twin turbos on it. It's under construction, as you can see. Last night I finished up the intake tubes. I made them out of a piece of ductwork and made a mold out of it with the fiberglass. It fits in there pretty good. I had to shrink it up at the end where it goes into the headlight. So we're about ready to pull all this apart and get the engine out of it and paint the chassis. Brian Roach is supposed to have the engine to us in about 2 weeks.
And can you describe what kind of engine it's going to be?
What's that?
You want to tell us what size engine's going to be in this thing?
632, twin 88s.
Chevy based.
Yeah, it's a Pontiac head, Dart head. And we made the intake at the shop. That was a real pain in the ass.
Tell me about it.
Well, Terry made me a mold to make the runners in the press brake. So he actually made a Delron die, and we actually put just a flat piece of 1/8 inch in the press brake and stamp out those runners. I used to bend them all by hand.
Okay.
So that made it much easier to make the runners. But there's still a ton of work in that intake.
Now, are those dual fuel lines that I'm looking at?
Yeah, well, it's got 2 sets of injectors. It's got the 5000s here, and they're like 2700s underneath. And Terry connected both throttle bodies, so they're hooked together, and they'll be adjustable individually.
Very nice. Now, for those who don't understand what this is, could you describe what this little box is right here on the top of the manifold?
Which burst panel?
Burst panel. What's the purpose of that? We'd like to educate as well as inform.
Yeah. If you do an oopsie and backfire, it don't blow the intake to pieces. Hopefully.
So that piece saves you some money.
Yeah.
These look like twin wastegates, or should I say blow-off valves?
Blow off, and then it's got 2 other blow off valves.
That's right.
And if you look at the strut bar, that's fully removable. See the strut bar here?
Mm-hmm.
Because the turbo is mounted to the strut bar, or else you'd tear the header up. You know, all that weight hanging on the header. So I made the strut bar removable. The turbos all come off, and then the strut bar comes out, and then you can get the header out. So it's fairly easy to work on.
Looks a lot easier to work on than
Some stuff.
some stuff I've seen.
Harder to work on than a lot of other stuff. But it's getting there. We finished up the oil pump. That's ready to go. I still have to make a fuel pump mount. I'm going to order Jessel makes a drive bolt that goes in the end of the Jessel, replaces the left-hand bolt that they have in there. And it's got a 5/16 hex in it to drive the fuel pump. So I'll make a mount off the front for that.
Now I'm looking at the exhaust here. How did you design that?
I just wanted the wastegates to go back into the flow just to keep them quieter. All that popping and banging. I just think it looks a little nicer too.
Yeah, see everything matches. Symmetrical.
Yeah. Well, I made this header over here, and then once I got that done, I told Dave he can make this header, which was the hardest header.
Beauties of being the boss. You can delegate.
I took the easy one. because we wanted the turbos to be as symmetrical as possible.
Right.
The inlet tubes are in exactly the same place, but the housings are going to be different because, of course, they're aimed differently.
Right.
And then getting, hooked to the exhaust, you got one coming from this direction and one coming from this direction. So that's why that side was so much tighter. We really couldn't put the turbos back at the firewall like I wanted to. We would have had to change a lot of stuff in the car.
Absolutely.
So this was the easiest way to do it. Didn't want to hang them all the way up here in the front. And then, if you look under there, there's a cup that holds the header so that the pressure out doesn't tend to break everything. That's not finished yet, but it's close.
And there's a brace bar that's holding it to the frame?
Yeah, well, it just sets on that cup.
Okay.
And we originally built this car probably 6 years ago. I think the fastest pass it had with the nitrous motor was a 450, but I could be wrong. And that was with the same 632.
Now, because we know it's important, what kind of 60-foot did this thing pull before?
I think it had a 104. Was it 105?
That's impressive.
Yeah, the car seems to work real well. We're trying to have it out this year. It's hard to say. Still a lot to do.
The belly of the beast. At this point in time, throwing a number out there, guesstimation,
Oh, I have no idea.
how many hours do you think you got in this thing?
A ton.
It takes time and money to put a product out.
I stopped keeping track 200 hours ago. Check out that wing. The wing turned out pretty good. Now Mark, the old owner of Autofab, he had a big part of that wing.
Okay.
He did 99% of it anyhow. Did a really good job on it. Now look around when you get a chance there. Look around the windows. I like to drive Brad crazy welding that shit around the windows to mount the glass to. See how it's all profiled? The edges where the windows are mounted. You're looking at the wrong thing. There you go. All that.
You talking about that?
Yeah. And that's all welded to the original body.
Wow.
And it's all set at that depth all the way around. We'd never do that again.
So that's a one-off modification done strictly for this car.
Yeah. And then if you look at the doors, this lip here had to be moved in order to get it to fit more or less like the original one was. And we made, made this channel so the window fits against that. And if you look at the door, this is even crazier yet. We sunk the carbon fiber flush with the door surface.
Wow.
Which will never get done again either. What a job that was. But those details are what makes the car, these
Right.
little things. If you look, I don't know if you can see the window brace. You know, I drew that up. Let me get this off. I drew that up and had it laser cut. And it fits in there nice. Never seen anybody with anything like that before. And I did the same, or Brad did the same thing with the windshield around
The top.
here, yeah.
A lot of quality craftsmanship in this.
And look at the grill. That's crazy. We got a lot of time in that. Because these cars are supposed to have stock headlights and stuff. He wanted to use a stock grill. So I actually had to cut the front end and make that grill fit into that. And then of course block the grill off after it was in there.
Now, I see this gnarly looking hood right here.
On the hood, yeah.
Oh, explain what this was about.
Let me flip it over and you can see it better. So we had to make space for the turbos. Yeah, so I cut all the braces out of it to lighten it up a bunch. And the cow part, look up here at the cow part.
Mm-hmm.
That we had to raise up for the intake, and it needed a lot more space through here, but we wanted to keep it looking more like a cow hood, so I put a piece in there. And then this, I did the same thing as I did with the headlight, where the air goes in. I took a piece of this heater duct and just waxed it down with some wax. And then whenever it made a mold of it, and cut those pieces out of the mold. I have a piece on there somewhere. There's a bit of it right there.
Okay.
That's one layer, really light. It's really strong. So that's in there, and you can see where I joined two halves together, right here in the middle. Thickened it up a little bit so I could round the top. And then this will be mounted to the front end permanently.
Very nice. Well, before we wrap this up,
Well, I'll show you some other projects here.
all right, well, here we go.
This is Susie's third car, and Robbie's going to start driving it in probably about a month. And it looks a little rough, but we're working on it. It's, I think the engine's got about 50 runs on it, so he should be good for the rest of this year anyhow. And then, him and I went through the transmission together a couple weeks ago, so hopefully he retained some of that information. He actually pulled the cylinder heads off himself because the thing had been sitting in the trailer for a while, and I was worried about the bores being rusty.
Right.
So he pulled the cylinder heads off. He cleaned it all up. We looked at it. Everything looked good. He put the whole thing back together himself, and then I showed him how to adjust the valves on it.
Now, what size is this engine?
This is a 572.
And how fast will your not quite 16-year-old son be going in this?
This car used to run 770s, 760s. It's got a gigantic, we use a Promont takeoff tire, so tires are cheap. So they slow the car up a bunch. They're probably a 10 slow.
Yeah.
And then we got this project over here, which we built for a guy, it's been 6 or 7 years ago, and he lost interest in it. He just recently sold it to a guy in California, and he wants me to do some work to it as well. And I told him before we get started on it, I wanted him to come out and meet me, and with this kind of investment, I wanted to go over everything that he wants to do, make sure we're both on the same page. But this car is all handcrafted. Everything is handmade on this car. I had one of my ex-employees did a lot of this car, a lot of the sheet metal on it. Did a real good job on it.
There you can see all the wells in the various areas. Something was stretched or moved, widened.
Oh yeah, Rob made the whole hood. He made parts of the fenders, reskinned the doors, made the visor, made the running boards. Of course, the thing's chopped. And he made all this. This car had a lot of body lines in it. He cut all that shit out of there, redid all that, made parts of the fenders, made the whole back of the deck lid. And these fenders were all two pieces. And this, he rolled all this in. The wing I never was crazy about, but the wing is neat. The trunk goes up and down on an electric motor, and it's not going to work right because it's not hooked up right now, but you can see, come over here, you can get an idea how it works. But there's a hook here, and when this deck lid goes up, automatically, and everything's bolted up and tight, which it isn't right now, there's a motor that pushes it up. It actually mounts to this deal here.
Nice.
And it goes up pretty slow, and then when it comes down automatically, it just latches right into that wing like perfectly. Well, not so perfect, but when it's all tight, it does. It works good. The tag pocket actually flips around and exposes the tag, which that's been done before. But it's still a neat deal because it's smooth, makes the back of the car look real smooth. Yeah, the doors were suicide with the hidden hinges, all the basic street rod stuff. Interior is packed full of stuff. So this was the original buck for the dash. We never did finish that. So this was going to be part of the mold. And then the seats were mounted, the floors are done. It's got two funny car cages in it.
Wow.
All the rubbers have been fit on the door, so everything is sealed up nice. The front end is neat because the front end comes off, but the mounting points are concealed behind the door, so you don't see them. Any line you see for the front end's right here. But it all unbolts off if you gotta do a catastrophic repair or something. This is a neat car. The guy got a good buy on it. He's got a nice piece. Needs a lot of work to finish it, but he's got a big start.
Absolutely one off.
Yeah.
Only thing in the country looking like this.
Yeah, I think that we're going to make radiators for it, because it's going to have a radiator on each side of the front fender, because the engine takes up a lot of that space. And then I think we're going to make headers for it and finish the exhaust.
Very nice.
And we're also talking about the steering column, because I don't think that was ever finished. And then let me show you something else I'm working on too, so you can get the whole big picture. This is Mike Decker's block. I just set the crank in. I just wanted to make sure the thing would spin over and it felt okay because this thing was blowed up now. I mean, this whole side was missing out of it. And you can still see a little bit over here where it was repaired, but you can't tell from inside. You see a little bit over here.
Yeah, you can see the discoloration.
It hit both sides, and then it also got it, I guess a couple pieces got loose and it busted out the cylinders and the bottom, so I had to weld all that crap back up. And then I had Burtonsville machine rebore it to fit the sleeve. I brought it back and I knocked the sleeves in it, took it back over there, and he honed the sleeves to fit the pistons. So this one's on the road to recovery. Should start putting it together one day next week, hopefully.
Alright.
I think that's all the projects here for the day.
Well, again, introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Rob from Autofab.
And
Aaron McCoy.
Aaron McCoy. There'll be more videos coming your way. Stay tuned.